Hello and good evening from Germany. This is Jonathan Quell-Higgins, streaming live from Hamburg. Beautiful summer evening, and it's even better because I have a special guest, and I'm joined by my friends. So let me introduce and welcome, very warm welcome to Bernhard Lederer. Hallo, guten Abend, Herr Lederer.
Guten Abend. Good evening, everybody.
So we are also joined by my good friend Patel Philip, and the original OC made it, and I'm doing Mr. Lederer full screen. Tan and I are fighting now over. Okay.
Let me run the controls. You can handle the
Okay.
There you go.
So hello, good evening, guys. Good evening, Patel, and good evening, original OC. Good to see you all. Thank you very much for joining. You're muted, OC.
Good evening, Jonathan. Good evening, Tanzil. And good to see Mr. Lederer again. We met in Geneva at the AHCI event earlier this year, just a couple of months ago. And we did an interview on a live stream, and he was very gracious and spent, I don't know, maybe an hour with us going through some incredible stuff. And it's good to have you on the stream.
Thank you. Nice seeing you again.
Do you recognize OC without sunglasses?
Without sunglasses and a blazer and drawstring backpack?
No, if I would met him on the street like that, I would thought maybe I saw that person once again, but no clue where and when.
Okay.
Right. You're not the only person who doesn't know me.
He only remembered Higgins from his adventures in Geneva a few months ago. So I think that's how Higgins roped Mr. Lederer into the show. But Bernhard, we're very, very happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I give you, Bernhard, my compliments for agreeing to do an interview over a phone, knowing that a couple of people are watching this. That was very spontaneous and very cool. And I think you could fascinate a lot of people who for the topic, for independent watchmaking, for your watch, that probably have never heard about it. And maybe we can talk a little bit about watches tonight. And I think you have a very interesting history. You started learning watchmaking at an age where the profession was dying, correct?
Yeah, I learned watchmaking in the 1970s, and that was the time when the quartz watches had been on the rise, and you can imagine the pleasure my parents had when I pronounced my wish to go down from school, not to make a career studying on the university, but become a battery changer, as they called a watchmaker. But of course, that was not what I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn watchmaking, and therefore I had the big chance to get a place of apprenticeship in a private watch museum in the middle of Germany. And that is where my career started.
So, yeah.
I was going to say, I was going to just, kind of chime in on the history, the origin, Bernhard. Like you mentioned, you chose this path to become a watchmaker, right? How does that translate into the watches you make today? The vision that you had when you first started, what your goals were to become a watchmaker, and kind of how that translates into, the kind of pieces you create today.
Can you ask the question slightly different? I'm not sure if I got it well.
Yeah, meaning when you chose to become a watchmaker, you were, obviously you had searched, we've told the story about, searching for, certain types of books and learning and really a vision of the pieces that you were looking to make, when you first started, and even how it is today. Has it changed over time? When you first started saying, I want to make these type of watches, and then today you make different ones. It was really just understanding the vision that you had from your start and how it's changed over the years.
The main theme never changed, but the details did. And in the beginning, I had no idea how to to show the beauty of a mechanic movement that is in a wristwatch. So I started my career making table clocks, floor clocks, grandfather clocks, wall clocks, and table clocks, and that was where I was well known for. Beside of restoring historic timepieces for museums, for antique dealers, and so on. And it took quite a couple of years before I had the first idea to go into wristwatches and to start find solutions how I can handle to express my interest, my point of view, what concerns going mechanic on the highest level, and thus in the wristwatches. And I think the breakthrough was in 2005 when I made the first complete wristwatch movement myself with so-called half-flying tourbillon. It was called the MT3, and that was the first time when I was able to show beauty of a movement in a wristwatch. And that is like it is today. I'm a little bit focused to transmit that fascination of beautiful mechanic, and on the other side, the main sense of doing watches. All the watchmakers over all the centuries, they had only one goal. They wanted to make watches better and better. And so for me, to continue to carry the flame of this historic watchmaking, but to not save the ashes of doing it as they did and change nothing, but to do it as they did, but bringing it to new developments. And by this, I guess, to honor their efforts in the best way.
I think
Yeah, I was going to say it's very, very good, Jonathan. I mean, you and I have talked about, Bernhard's watches, for a couple of weeks, before even you meeting him, and Bernhard, Jonathan and I were kind of debating, like, you make, obviously the CIC and the focus on accuracy, chronometric accuracy and whatnot, and it was I was very interested, when you did the interview with Jonathan around like the story. Obviously, you've told it now about like your passion to continue kind of pushing for better watchmaking, and it is very, very good to see that. I know, Jonathan, you had another comment. I just wanted to finish up my comment with Bernhard.
I think it is very telling to understand Bernhard that he started with clocks. Clocks usually are less disposable than wristwatches, particularly when you're working for a watch museum. And I think that if I'm incorrect, tell me, Bernhard. But I think that just shows the personal development of yourself, that you're trying to create timepieces that are eternal, that are long lasting, that have substance, and that are improving what has been traditionally done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I would say the key word is substance, right, Jonathan? I mean, when you look at the watches, like, like I mentioned, the central impulse chronometer, like you have honestly, Bernhard, when I saw that watch, it was so unique to see compared to kind of what we see in the market today coming out for the watches, where it's different color dial. Like there's not a lot of, what we see, I think, as collectors, a lot of real ingenuity or thought into it. To see, like, obviously you seeking, chronometric accuracy in a certain, method that you're not seeing from other manufacturers is very exciting to me to see. Because it's just somebody who has a different story. And it was really, really, interesting for me to hear your story, because it really brought to light your watchmaking and your vision, I think, which aligns with a lot of what collectors are looking for, I would say.
Mm. I think it's important to know that I'm not living a fantasy to make the most accurate watch. That is not the point at all. For this, we have the atomic watch and we have our mobile phones. What I'm interested in is really to continue the tradition of the big watchmakers, their kind of researches, the way they researched, and the pleasure to show, if it's possible to show, but at least to search for solutions that would have helped them to go further, and also to show that even today, watchmaking is a very, very interesting field to work in. And there are a lot of things to discover until today. And therefore, as you know, the central impulse chronometer is the first watch out of a collection of several escapements, what we call the tribute to the masters, as most of them are based on historic developments. And those historic developments just re-engineered, re-observed, and reflected in my way to bring them to the next level.
So, Mr. Lederer, when you went to Switzerland, you started with your own company, and you've been creating projects for other wristwatch companies. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think in one of our previous conversations, you told me your motives for going independent with your own watch instead of only supplying high-end watch manufacturers. Would you like to share that story with us?
Yeah. No, yeah. It's easy to understand at the end, because I became watchmaker because of escapements. When I inherited the first pocket watch from my grandfather, I felt myself so much double left-handed that I was afraid if I open it, it'll never ever will work again. So I went to the library in Stuttgart, and there, by lucky accident, I borrowed a book where the author was writing how he became a watch aficionado. And he was writing that when he was a young boy and behaved as his father expected him to be, he had the right to listen to a drawer on the office table of his father, where he always was hiding a pocket watch, and the boy had the right to listen and to find out which pocket watch was in the drawer, because his father had a few pocket watches, all with a different escapement. So the story was that he told, you can find out which watch is in a drawer only by listening to the acoustic signature of that watch. And that sounds so weird to me. I did not believe that this can be true. And to find it out, I had no other idea than to go to flea markets. I started to wind each and every watch that was offered on the flea market, and I put it to my ear and listened. And I took another one and listened on the other, and I compared if I can hear the difference. And by doing so for weeks and weeks, until I really knew, yes, you can detect the type of escapement. It is very tricky. You have to train your ears a lot, but yes, you can. But doing that was where I got the virus for watchmaking. And to be precise, not the virus for watchmaking. I never liked really to repair watches. That's not for me. But I did it well. Everybody was happy and satisfied with the work I did, but I was not the most happy one. So for me, the non plus ultra, the coronation of everything are escapements. And therefore, whatever I made by making watches was always related to escapements. And the watch industry, where I worked when I was in Switzerland for many years, they are not interested in escapements. They are happy with the basic with the Swiss lever escapement that is perfect working, no doubts, no headaches, nothing to develop, all is there. And so that was still the theme for me, where I was sure I will never enter in a conflict with my clients. And therefore, I decided that I will make my own brand based on escapements.
So, first of all, identifying pocket watches or watches by the ticking sound. If anybody in the audience thought that OC was a nerd, I think that epitomes the level of nerdiness to a very high degree. Is that? Would you agree with that, OC? You're muted. You're muted. We can't hear you.
He's shaking his head.
100%. 100%. By the way.
Mr. Leader, we do have some nice comments from folks in the chat. I think you made a good impression on some folks you met in person a few weeks ago. We have James Hess. I believe James Hess is in Germany too, right, Jonathan?
Yes.
And James says, "Greetings, Mr. Leader. We met at Geneva this year. Your timepieces are absolute genius." With a follow-up, Mr. Leader, who says, "And all the best to your wonderful wife, also from Zurich."
So he's sometimes in Zurich and sometimes in Stuttgart, as far as I know. Yeah.
There's a technical question, Jonathan. I don't know if you wanted to
Yes.
I can grab it from Kesselwitz. This is for Mr. Lederer, for Bernhard.
Oh.
I'll put it up. Yep, from Kesselwitz. Question for Mr. Lederer. Typical designs use a minimum thread engagement of 75% and a length of engagement of 1.5x the diameter of the screw. Do you use this rule when engineering your movement? Very specific question, Bernhard. Very specific.
Can you let the question in?
Yeah,
Engagement 5 and the length of.
I've never heard of that rule, to be honest.
And I answer that in our constructions, I invite the people to not follow rules, but to reflect each and every screw, how it is to be used in the best way. So those general rules and what is common and what is made normally, when it fits in our construction, of course, then it may appear, but we use as many threads as we have to, and we don't look what is a typical design or a general use and a general rule.
Okay, I think that also replies the second question that he has here. How many revolutions does he use for each screw? I think you replied to that. It depends on the purpose.
Yes, so there is, of course, a minimum number of revolutions to be sure that a screw will stay where you place her and how you place her, and also to minimize the force on each thread.
Yeah. If I could broaden the question a little bit, when obviously you have a tremendous focus on the engineering and technical capabilities of the timepiece to achieve what you want in terms of accuracy, when do you start to introduce the concept of dial design and aesthetics and case aesthetics into the process? Is that something that you think about from the very beginning, or is that something that gets added later after you've accomplished, the end result of satisfying your curiosity about how to make things better and more accurate?
And the very first, very clearly, is the movement construction. Normally, we make a prototype where we don't care for any optic aspects. That is purely for technical learning. And somewhere in the process, of course, you get the feeling that the time is now right to start thinking about the aspects of beauty, aspect of dial and case. And very typical in the central impulse chronometer, we had two main designs. The very first movement design was very much looking a little bit Glashütte style, with golden chatons with 3 blued screws keeping the chaton, And when I had that in the hand and I looked at it, again, there came the feeling that this is not right. I'm not 200 years old. I'm from today. So I said, no, I don't want to be brought into connection with this a little bit elderly style of how to design a movement. I prefer to be contemporary, even if I say something what will be in the next watch a little bit different, because the next watch we are preparing already now, the next escapement, is very much orientated to a traditional movement appearance. But this is based on the fact that we there honor a very well known and very famous watchmaker who has a very particular style in his movements. And to really honor him from A to Z, we decided to keep his style, but make it much more contemporary.
You've said in the past that you always wanted to be a watchmaker of the 21st century and not a watchmaker with a style of the past. And you've also mentioned that as a kid, you couldn't really tell the difference between an hour hand and a minute hand, and that kind of left an imprint on how you approached style. Correct?
Yeah.
Bernhard, everyone's going to quote everything you said. In
Yeah,
any
OC,
interview.
stop
You'll quote
embarrassing my
everything.
guests. Stop embarrassing my guests.
It's not, but it's important because it actually
Yeah, yeah.
shaped how he designed movements and dials.
Yeah, no, and it's so funny. I had even not 2 weeks ago, a chat with my mom where she remembered me, even if I did not forget that, how difficult it was for her to teach me that the long hand is for the minutes and the short hand for the hours. And she had the difficulty to teach me that because I asked this terrible question I ask always from being a young boy until today, the question, why? And she was not able to answer me why the minute hand is the long hand and why the hour hand is short. If she would have been able to tell me the reason, immediately I would have accepted, swallowed, and understood it. But she said, it is just like that. You have to accept it. And I only can accept things where I understood the reason. And
So,
funny enough, we had been talking about that with my mom, who is now nearly 90 years old.
but if I understand correctly,
She
you
knows
still
what-
can't. You still can't explain why that is.
Yes, you can. In the past, it was the other way around. If you go to historic clocks, watches did not exist at the beginning. If you go to clocks, there is a certain time when the long hand was for the hours and the short for the minutes. And there is a very specific moment when that was changed. And that is easy to explain because the very first clocks only had an hour hand. They had been not accurate enough to have minute hands. And when timekeeping mechanic clocks became more and more precise, and you had been able to put additional a minute hand, people had been used to only look the hour hand. So the hour hand stood for a long time, the only clear visible hand, and the minute hand was simply for those who wanted to know it a bit more precise, added. And then came a moment when, and this I don't know when that was exactly, but when it was shifted. Because simply of accurate time reading, it makes more sense to have the minute hand as long as possible, because then the distance from 1 minute line to the next on the dial becomes bigger and you can more easily and more accurate read the time.
even between the minutes, and you get a sense if the minute is half over or something. Oh, very good explanation. Where do you find that stuff, OC?
Yeah, and by the way, visually, when you look at the aesthetics of a watch, not your own but other timepieces, are you drawn to watches with central hours and seconds, or from your childhood you shy away and you prefer watches with like retrograde seconds or subdials or some kind of different layout for the handling of hours and seconds?
Yeah. I don't know if you know about that. There was a moment when I stopped being a watchmaker because of a car accident that I had. And I was quite frustrated because all the clocks I had built had been destroyed in that accident. I was on the way to the Basel fair. And it was a magazine talking about watches that brought me back to watchmaking. Because there was a design of a very modern wristwatch, and there the hour hand and the minute hand had been switched. And that was so painful for me to look at that. And I thought, it's so nice design. It's so nice. It deserves to be corrected. So I tried to contact the designer who was living in Brazil. And I called him and started to talk English with him, that I saw this design, etc. But I could hear in his answers that he is not native speaker for English, and I asked him where he's from. And funny enough, he came from the village where I learned watchmaking. So he is German from Wuppertal. And in Wuppertal was the watch museum I had learning watchmaking. So we had a very nice time chatting, and I explained him what he has to do. And because I finished watchmaking, my career was over. And he was smart enough to convince me to at least make a prototype for him, that he then finds someone who will make him the series. And that is how I came back to watchmaking.
Does that reply to the question that I put on? Can Mr. Lederer explain some of the challenges he had with the Brazil clock? Is that the clock that he's talking about?
The Brazil clock is really a clock, but it was designed by the same designer who designed the wristwatch called Time Dimension. His name is Hans Donner, and he designed a monumental clock to celebrate the 500 years of discovery of Brazil. And designers are funny people. They are full of fantasy, and it's good that they are full of fantasy, and that they are not hindered by technique reasons and by technique difficulties. They design whatever they would like to have.
They also don't have to sell those watches.
Also, yeah. And they don't have to build the objects they design. And he designed a monumental clock with a sender second. And the sender second was designed to have no counterweight. So even when you look to the church near you and you look to the church clock dial, you see that hour hand, minute hand, they have a counterweight. If not, it would be too heavy for the movement to turn the hands around. Now he wanted to have a second hand without counterweight, and he wanted to build that in an enormous scale. The second hand was supposed to be nearly 4 meters long, exposed on the coast of Brazil, where you have all the strong winds and storms from the sea. And of course, everybody told impossible to do. That is just a nice design, but forget it, that is impossible. And impossible is a trigger word for me. I love this because it makes me curious if this impossible is really impossible, or maybe we don't know how to do, and therefore we say it's not possible. And I started to study that case, and after a while I had an idea how to overcome this obstacle. And of course, I'm not a big machine engineer. I'm just simply a watchmaker. So I addressed myself to an engineer office, and I explained them the case and what was my idea. And they designed and calculated everything. And yes, it worked. And it worked so good that the company that ordered in the beginning 3 of those clocks decided to put to every canton in Brazil 1 of those clocks. So suddenly, instead of 3 months being in Brazil, I had a job for 1.5 years down there.
So, Jonathan, an easy way to get a piece unique from Bernhard is just tell him it's impossible to get it for you. It will make you a piece unique.
Yeah. Somehow a little bit it's true. If you ask me why I made the central impulse chronometer, don't forget that it was George Daniels who, in his book Watchmaking, he is writing that his independent double wheel escapement, what is the base for the central impulse chronometer, is the best escapement he can imagine. But that it never ever will be possible to put this escapement into a wristwatch. And therefore, as he wanted to make an escapement for a wristwatch, he developed the coaxial escapement, what later on then he sold to Omega. So this challenge came up when I was ready to look for new customers for my company that developed for the years watches for the big names in the watch industry. And there it's very clear you have a big problem because all your contracts are with a few times mentioning that you have no right to unveil that it was you who made the development for them. Just to simply explain, if Rolex has a new development, of course it was a Rolex who developed it. If it was Patek, it was Patek. If it was Omega, it's Omega. If it is, I don't know who, Breitling, then it was Breitling who developed, and so on and so forth. So
you told me in the preparation of that show, you always had to sign a contract. We don't know you, and you don't know us.
yes, yeah. So you do not exist as a developer in the watch industry. You are a non-existing person. That is like that. And now just imagine you go to a watch company, let's say I go to Lange & Söhne, or I go to Patek, or I go to Breitling, or Panerai, or to whomsoever, and I say, listen, I'm Mr. Lederer, I'm a watch developer, and I guess I'm quite good, so I think it would be nice if we can work together. So if you propose, if you go somewhere and you propose, then normally you present some references. But I cannot because all the contracts forbid me to do so. So I only saw one way out of that disaster. And I thought, so if I can present a watch, what the big George Daniels declared as being impossible to manufacture, and if I will be able to make the impossible possible, that might be a good object to present myself, looking for additional jobs from the industry. And that is how the story started, why I began to make the central impulse chronometer.
So you designed a very nice business card, I must say.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you and I
I'm
talked.
quite satisfied with the result of my business card.
But Bernhard, I mean, Jonathan and I, when we did our show originally looking at your CIC watch, we on this channel we always look, we don't look dial first. We look obviously in the case back and look at the movement, and both Jonathan and I were very impressed. And then, kind of OC's question around form following function, on the design, that's where I think his and we even went the same route around when we flipped the dial or the watch around, right? Like we were curious to know kind of the story behind the watch, and this whole talk about the impossible, really for me elevates the story, because we knew that you had a pursuit for a certain the accuracy, this doing the central impulse chronometer, but we didn't really know why. And this whole story of the impossible really makes a lot of sense, because Jonathan actually messed up the story about the book. He said it was a Breguet book, and you corrected him a few weeks ago that it was the Daniels book that you went to England to find. But now it's piecing it all together, and it's actually bringing the story a lot more full circle for me, at least.
Yeah, but regardless, so I hope that we can talk with Bernhard a little bit about his central impulse chronometer. But regardless of those technical impossibilities that he overcame, even before you and I talked, Tanzil, I was on the show with Swiss, and we were just raving about this watch. First of all, the visual impact. There is no other watch that showcases a watch movement like that. It was the visual impact, and it was the fact that it's two separate movements, two separate gear trains that merge in two remontoirs and have a chronometer escapement, and that was enough for us to be hooked and talk about those watches for years.
Mm.
So Bernhard, I would like to know the case back. We are seeing here the case back. This doesn't look like any other watch that is on the market. What was the idea behind it? Why does it look like it looks like?
Mm. And don't laugh about if I say no, there was no idea behind. There was
I was gonna say we were looking for the genius, Bernhard, on that one, because this is to us is really the masterpiece, is the case back, right? So
yeah. No, there was no idea behind it. There was a frustration behind it. The first case was designed a little bit, let's say, like an Italian sports car, very modern, very elegant, very contemporary, sexy, masculine. Really, I loved it. And we, as we do always, we machined the first prototype in-house and put the movement in. And then there was, as I said already, there was a big frustration, because we worked so long with so much enthusiasm and so much love to details on that movement. And even if this first case design had open sides with glass windows and everything what we thought would be enough to have a look into the movement and to show its beauty, it didn't work out that way as it was on the screen. And this is the difficulty with today's software where you develop things. They are sometimes they are far away from reality when you have a piece in hand. And that was the case with our watch. And everybody was frustrated and a bit sad. And we started to discuss, and that discussion took a really couple of days. We reflected what we can change, and if we make smaller here or larger this, and change that. And at the end, I cannot tell you anymore who brought the right word that brought us to this solution. It took a couple of days when the word of a vitrina, of just put it pure on stage as it is, naked, and that had been the keywords that then made suddenly very clear how the case should look like. The case should look like not existing, just to do nothing else than keep the vitrine, keep the dust away, and allow the strap to be fixed to the beauty.
Did you have to redesign some bridges when that decision was made to have that totally?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm black or white. There is no shades of gray. either it is really as it should be, or we redo it. Yeah. So sometimes the people I'm working with, they dislike this point in me, but I think the result always shows at the end that it was good that way. And yeah, the same with the first design and the disaster when it appeared in our communication. So it was very clear we will not correct anything. No, we will make something completely from zero, what is different. And I think
How,
it
ha
was well done.
how happy were your suppliers when you introduced them to the idea to have this kind of vitrine kind of case back?
The case back was the most difficult component to get. We only have very little components where we have suppliers. We buy the hairspring, we buy the Inca block, the mainsprings, and all the little rubies what you see on the movement. And then we are already done with all what concerns the movement. We make the prototypes on the case, on the dial, the hands, etc. But we don't produce then the cases. This is another type of work, and I don't want to enter in this world of case making. But of course, I had to occupy myself to find a supplier who is able to make this sapphire crystal. When we designed it, when we made the first proto, of course, we machined it in a plexiglass and machined it, polished it, and looked at, and everybody was immediately happy and was clear that's it. And then started the big journey around the globe, and in one direction, in the other direction, to search for a company able to do what we designed here. And that was the biggest difficulty, which I would have.
No, I was going to say you have some fans in the chat, Bernhard, who said that they wish they could have bid on your only watch. They felt it was one of the best watches of the year, and they say they love the central.
Allow me just to say one word here. I don't want to give any further comment on this matter, but I think it's a pity that Christie's did not stop the auction, even if they knew that they had been hacked. They had been they had been hacked. There was a cyber attack against Christie's, and there was no chance to make online bidding. Only those people being in the SAL, and only those people that already registered more than 1 week ahead, if I'm not wrong, to be called by telephone, had a chance, and therefore a lot of watches did not reach the amount they deserve. And for us, it's just a sad story, because we made a new piece, the piece of 2023, what did not happen to be auctioned because of the very known reasons, had the big only watch 2023 on its backside, and therefore we made this new piece, and unfortunately we could not help more than only the small amount I would have loved if with our work we could have helped more to continue the work on the researchers to heal this disease.
Yeah, the highest bidder got the deal of the century, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
No
this
doubt
was one of the
about
most
that.
beautiful watches presented. Like
And he's happy. He contacted us. He wrote us a letter. So lovely, so nice. Yeah, he is really happy.
So just for the audience, that is the you called it Inverto, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically what you're doing is you take the movement even more to the stage, because you're doing it, you're putting it on the front, It's technically very challenging because you have to construct the pinions of the minute hand and the hour hand, so it's not only flipping around. There's a lot of work involved, and I think if one movement deserves to be showcased that way, it's yours. And I'm a total fan of this. Now the big question is: this is 44 millimeters, correct? That is based on. So when will you do that in 39 millimeters?
Oh, come on, Jonathan. We want you live large here. You're gonna have such a beautiful movement. We want it to be seen, Jonathan. Come on.
No. But Bernhard introduced his CIC in 39 millimeters this year in Geneva. That is the part that you're missing.
Yes,
38.5.
Yeah. Alors, first, alors, the inverter. We made 18 pieces, and it was possible to order it on 18th of December. So it was just a little bit playing a game around to make a Christmas present. 18 pieces on 18th of December, and very, very happily, all the watches had been sold out immediately. However, there are 2 watches because the customer who ordered it asked us by personal reasons to step back, and we did not communicate that until today. So you are now, the audience here are the first who learn that there are still 2 inverters available.
Right.
And of course, they can be personalized, like this one here with this very nice color inlay. But voila, that is what we made on the 44. It was requested, if you would like to say like that, it was requested by everyone. When you have the central impulse chronometer in your hands and you flip it around and you see that movement the first time in reality, everybody says, wow, this I would like to wear the wrong way around. And that was so clear that we wanted to fulfill this watch everybody expressed, that we decided to make the inverter.
So my question is still open. 39 millimeter
It will not be answered.
Okay.
See, Jonathan, you just need to tell him it's impossible, and then he'll make you a piece you know.
And I'm not Bernhard, so I'm not getting challenged by hearing it's impossible.
Look, I just wanted to say, Bernhard, this was one of the most beautiful watches I saw this year. Like, you know, I was very contentious with Jonathan around, you know, the I guess the production CIC. But when I saw this watch, like, I think you had it spot on. Like the movement, you know, being able to see it from the front is really magic. And when I saw this piece go up, you know, on auction, I was blown away at the design and just how well it was put together. So, you know, definitely a lot of folks in the chat are saying, you know, definitely, you know, somebody got it, you know, obviously got a very good deal, but I think there's a lot of people recognizing the craftsmanship that you put into it and the hard work that you put into it. And, you know, very, 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 very beautiful watch.
Look, there had been a lot of people contacting us, asking us to attack Christie's, that they did not stop the auction, knowing that you cannot bid. No, and they explained why they think it would be good. I don't share their point of view. Their argument was that the value of our watches will be pulled down because of this auction result. I disagree. Every serious watch enthusiast, every serious watch collector can have a look to this kind of watches, and he will see very easy and immediately that here we talk about the high-end, high-level watchmaking. And everybody knows that there was a electronic attack against Christie's. They suffered to be cyber attacked, and that's it, and that's all. And that has nothing to do with the value of our watches.
Definitely not. No,
definitely not.
I have a technical question. How do you assemble that movement with those crystals? Are they glued, or how do you fix them?
Yes, they are glued. It's a very complex form, and this is simply not possible to make a joint for waterproofness. that will stay in place when you would like to use a joint to press in the glass. That is technically impossible, but today the glues are so solid, they're completely watertight. And if you know how to put the glue and how to assemble it, you cannot even see any bubble, and it's perfect made.
Should we talk a little bit about this, the technical aspects of your CIC, Central Impulse Chronometer, which sets it apart, which makes it so precise? I'm seeing here a question, Mr. Lederer, would you ever consider guaranteeing the accuracy of your watches similar to Patek -3 plus 2 seconds a day, Rolex +2 -2? I think that would be the starter question, and maybe then you explain us a little bit about the intricacies of your Central Impulse Chronometer.
To answer the question, what was about the accuracy communicated by Patek, communicated by Rolex or by Omega with the master chronometer. It is a science for itself to interpret those documents. The watches we can certify, we can guarantee a certain accuracy, but we may never forget that there is, first of all, a huge difference between millions of movements produced by the big industry and handcrafted movements by a watchmaker. However, our watches have something a little bit different than this accuracy, what they talk about. We have a very high regularity beside of the accuracy. And I feel that is somehow more important. With the regularity, I mean that our watch is during the whole power reserve stable in its precision. And that is a big difference. When you guarantee that your watch is ±2 or ±3 seconds or whatsoever, they talk about you take a picture at time 0 and you take a picture exactly 24 hours later. And then your second hand has to be in this frame of ±2 or ±3 or ±5, whatsoever seconds. This is a question of regulating your balance, but it does not tell anything what time your watch is showing after 6 hours, after 8 hours, after 1 hour. No information you will ever get about the regularity of timekeeping. And this is where the central impulse chronometer is extremely different. We have those two remontoirs d'égalité, and they guarantee that we have always the same energy coming to the balance, coming into the escapement, and therefore we have a stable amplitude, and therefore we have a stable accuracy and precision. So whenever you look to the central impulse chronometer, you can be sure you have the right time shown on the dial. If you do that on a watch, even if it's certified ±1 second, you may not be sure whether it shows the correct time or not. And this is a big difference.
I think that's a very important point, because we were talking about the torque of the mainspring. So for example, if you have a watch that is fully wound and it's running the first 12 hours +20, and in the second 12 hours it's running -21. After 24 hours you have -1 second. Bingo, chronometer. And you are saying, well, the watch could be faster at the beginning and slower at the end, or vice versa, and that is not reflected in those testing results. And because you're using the remontoirs, you can guarantee that the precision is always accurate over the entire span of the power reserve.
Yeah, and there we come back to what I said. I love to work in the sense and in the meaning of the great watchmakers of the past. What did them push? Why the H4 of Harrison is so important? It is because of the seafarers. They need accurate timekeeping to be able to find their position on the open sea. And if you give them a watch, what is during 24 hours, maybe running 1 or 2 minutes too fast, you only know that every 24 hours it's accurate showing the time. Imagine the captain asking his navigation officer for the perfect position, and the navigation officer is obliged to tell him, sorry, we don't know where we are because the watch is only 12 hours after accuracy. We have to wait another 12 hours before we know what is the exact time to make the navigation and to fix our position. That would be really funny. And therefore, I feel that the regularity is much more important than this pseudo accuracy. I prefer a watch what is constantly going every day 1 minute more far, has a mistake of 60 seconds, but this mistake is stable all the time through. So I know after 10 days I'm 10 minutes plus. At least I know exactly at each and every moment what is the correct time.
So Bernhard, coming back to your central impulse chronometer, I would like to to be a little bit technical. So you're on the record of saying the Swiss lever escapement is an industrial escapement, but it's not really a good solution when it comes to high end.
Okay. It's a good solution.
Okay.
Under the aspect of a industrial produced movement, it's unbeatable. There is nothing what is working so reliably correct and where you can be sure it's working, and what is so easy to manufacture, and therefore it's unbeatable. And this is, I guess, what is the base to say it's a good movement.
So what are the issues of the Swiss lever escapement?
The issue of the Swiss lever escapement is that it needs oil. It needs oil, and it has different different friction on the ingoing pallet and on the outside pallet. I don't think it makes a big sense to go to all physics details. So let's stay with the fact that very well known is that the efficiency of the Swiss lever is not the highest.
Yeah. So the main issue is the friction that happens over the entire day, which needs oiling then, and that is one of the main issues, if I understand correctly.
Yes, as Breguet apparently said already at his time, give me the perfect oil and I will give you the perfect watch.
Fantastic.
So he knew already oil is the issue.
So Breguet didn't have the correct oils or the perfect oils, so he invented then the natural escapement. And what is if I understand historically, that was before the Swiss lever escapement, or am I wrong? I think the Breguet natural escapement came before, or is it after?
I have to look to the books.
Okay.
I'm not a historian.
Okay, doesn't matter.
I really can't answer that question. But he had the idea because the chronometer escapements came up, and they have shown immediately that they are extremely superior to all watch escapements that had been known at that time. If the Swiss lever or the English lever had been already on the market or not, I'm not sure. I can't tell you that. But he realized or everybody knew that the detent is superior. The results are fantastic. You have accurate timekeeping, but you have a huge problem what concerns shock resistance. And the idea of Brugge was very simple. He said, if I put two detent escapements against each other, mirrored to each other, then it should be shock resistant. You may understand it a little bit like if there are two people standing against each other and one pushes one person, the person that is pushed has the risk to fall down. If there is a third person standing on the other side, he will catch the person that was pushed, will keep it, it will not fall down. So if you have two pushers and one in between, then this in between is suddenly safe. And that was the idea of Brugge. And this idea is absolutely correct. What was improved later on then by George Daniels. But Brugge had the problem to overcome that those two detent escapements have to be synchronized to each other. You never may have you have to do everything to avoid that one escape wheel is interacting at the wrong moment with his partner. So they have to be synchronized to each other. And Brugge had a solution for the synchronization. He put it to each axe of an escape wheel. He put it a geared wheel, and those two geared wheels interlocking with each other, 100% synchronizing the two escape wheels. So far, so good. Everything was made absolute correctly. Only point was that Brugge did not realize that if you have to accelerate suddenly 4 wheels instead of 1, you need 4 times the energy to accelerate. And at his time, the movements what he used, they had been good for a power reserve of maybe something around 30 hours. So if you take the 30 hours, it means that every 7.5 hours you have to rewind the watch because the energy is used. So now try to sell a watch, the most expensive, to the most rich people, explaining them that they can have the most fantastic watch. It's so fantastic that they even may stand up every 7.5 hours to rewind their watch. I think there he had a little marketing problem, and therefore he, after a few trials, he abandoned his natural escapement.
So if I understand you correctly, Breguet was using two escapement wheels, just like here on that drawing, and to synchronize them to prevent that they're interlocking each other, he added two traditional toothed wheel on top, which were interlocking. So not
Yeah.
only he needed 4 times the energy, he also needed the energy to overcome those two toothed gears touching each other and certainly using also energy. So I think
Yes.
it's even more than 4 times the energy, isn't it?
Yes, yes. At the end, it's even more. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's keep it in the
Okay.
main problematic. It's instead of one wheel, what the movements at his time had been constructed for, he had to accelerate 4 wheels, and that was simply not possible to get it in a serious way done.
Yeah.
And Daniels had the idea, as we can see here on that drawing. He invented what I call the metronome, the piece between those two escape wheels. And there you can see one common locking stone above the axe. Yes, there where you are now. That is the common locking stone, and then you have two separate resting stones, one for each wheel. So the metronome, when it is now pushed to the left side, the wheel what is on the waiting pallet. You see one teeth on the waiting pallet exactly there where you are now with the mouse. This tooth will be liberated, and this escape wheel will start to transmit his energy to the escape pallet that you can see 2 tooths more above. Yes, there, exactly. And while the metronome is liberating the wheel that is on the right side, the wheel on the left side is blocked by the resting stone, what is on the bottom. Yes, there.
So you're having 2 stopping positions for each escapement wheels instead of only one stopping stone that you usually have on a detent. Is that correct?
Yes.
The detent has only one stone that locks and releases then. So I have a question here. When this metronome is moving, there's certainly also a little amount of friction between the tooth and the pallet. Is that correct, or is that negligible?
This is correct. Yes.
Okay.
But this is a sliding. That is a sliding friction, and that is the big difference to the Swiss lever escapement, because you have here I don't know in English the wording, but in German we would say eine ausgehende Reibung. It's a friction.
It's an outgoing.
It's outgoing friction. So the difference is, just imagine you are walking on the street and you have an umbrella with you. What you just let, what you pull behind you. So he is just he has some friction when he is on the road, but that friction is not disturbing. If you take the umbrella and you push it in front of you, then you build up a very dangerous friction, what is very heavy. Did I express well understandable or not so much?
I think I can follow you, yeah.
So the difference when you have an umbrella, what is behind you and you walk, that is just jumping, bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
But when you push it in front of you, then every little stone, every little thing will hinder it and will build up a huge friction.
Yeah, okay,
and
so
this is the case in the Swiss lever. And here, this outgoing friction, what you have here on the Daniels escapement, that is the outgoing friction that is you can vernachlässigen. You can
neglect. Yeah. So I'm having here a little video of your system, and we had that discussion, or in preparing that show. I think you told me you had a family problem investing 6,000 Swiss francs in a high-speed camera, which is now outdated. Maybe
I did not have a problem. I had a discussion.
Okay. So at the end of the day, it was okay.
Yeah. No, it's very important, and it only gives us more respect to our forefathers if we can see what they had been able to develop and to invent without the tools we have today. Without that high-speed camera, I feel I would not have been able to go that far and to reach the results that we have now with our central impulse chronometer.
So at the moment, I'm only starting the video just to show how your system is working live in action, just to give it a little bit of motion. And if you want to add something, please.
Now we see, voila. You observe the common stone on top, who will now liberate that wheel and then will be in front of the right wheel. Here we see where the impulse will be, voila, and now zack, the other wheel will fall down to the waiting pallet, while the wheel what made his job is now on his resting position.
So, and one interesting aspect, and that is also shown here on that video, the Daniels system had a little bit of problems with a kind of wiggling problem. And here on the left, you can see it even in the high-speed camera, the tooth of the escapement wheels are kind of moving back and forth, which is not a sign of precision, and that has its reason. So you can see here now that one here.
Yes. May I correct you? It's not the
Okay.
Daniel system that has a problem. His
Okay.
system was designed to work in pocket watches with 2 hertz. What we show here is what happens when you take the system of Daniels one-to-one as he designed and constructed it, and lift up the speed from 2 hertz to 3 hertz. That is the moment when his system is showing a certain disturbance, because the speed of the impulse palettes become so high going through the common space that the escape wheel nearly has no chance anymore to follow it and to transmit the energy. So you can imagine how extremely the wheel has to accelerate to just at the very end transmit the whole energy what it still has, and that is a little bit like giving a hit to the escapement. And all extreme forces, of course, they are not well seen in an escapement. An escapement, always the transmission of energy should be smooth.
So
I already told to Jonathan that we are actually preparing a video where we explain the steps from the idea of Breguet, his natural escapement and his efficiency. Then what is the big difference to the Daniels independent double wheel escapement and the efficiency of that escapement? And what are the differences in function and in efficiency to our escapement? And I promised that I will inform here the audience through Jonathan to inform you all as soon as this video will be online.
Oh, see, I haven't figured out how to maximize my YouTube screen. I apologize for that. So I was trying to do my best to show that system. So one of your mantras and credos, and we've seen that in that YouTube video, those escapement wheels should be as light as possible.
That's true.
And one of the main obstacles with Breguet's system was that he was adding those toothed gears, and you can get a sense from those high-speed camera videos what forces are to accelerate and to stop those escapement wheels. And of course, everything needs energy. And you said it should be as smooth as possible. So Patel Philippe has dropped. Thank you very much. You have a good evening. So there is one question here that I'm seeing here. Andreas is asking thoughts on MEMS escapement technology developed by Seiko, and I think I'm throwing a ball into your park, Mr. Lederer.
We are not using MEMS. We are using the Liga technology, what is not far away from that used by Seiko.
Yeah.
We all our movements, what we made for testing the reliability and the efficiency of the escapement, we produced from titanium grade 5, where we made a very special surface hardening treatment to have them reliable for many years. and that worked out perfectly, and we had fantastic results.
So,
There
but
was
if I,
but there was only one point, and there you see how how maniac I am from time to time. Those titanium wheels, you cannot really polish them to a black polish surface, and therefore we decided to make tests with LIGA technology. This LIGA technology is a photolithographic technology where you galvanically put layers of nickel above each other. And if you zoom in here to the escape wheels, you can see that they are made from that. And the LIGA technology allows you to make very ultralight constructions. You can compare that maybe a little bit with the Eiffel Tower in Paris, where you have a very solid construction. What is, of course, it's a little bit more heavy, the Eiffel Tower, than our escape wheels, but the principle rests the same. It's a very filigrane structure that stabilizes itself by using more or less only triangles. And by this technology, we have now even wheels lighter than those wheels made from titanium. And we have the big advantage, they are mirror polished, and you can really have fun seeing how the light is playing on the surfaces.
so previously you made, I can't zoom in even more. I apologize for that. So, but you can see those escapement wheels are hollowed out on the tooth and also on the rim, which is that LIGA technology to make material as light as possible. The problem is you can't make that out of titanium, if I understand correctly.
Mhm.
So you have to make them in nickel, which is heavier than titanium, but you're still having a weight advantage compared to a solid titanium escapement wheel. Is that correct?
They are lighter than those that we made from titanium. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
and they are perfectly polished versus the titanium ones.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so that is what we're seeing here is the 39 millimeter model. So will you do that kind of technology now in both models, or?
It is in both. Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We made that already in the 44. I told you that only in the movements what we use in-house for daily testing. Everybody in our company, nearly everybody in our company, is wearing a watch. So we have the feedback of daily use. We have a guy, he makes downhill races with his bicycle, and he asked me the exception and the allowance to put down the watch when he is going for his weekend races. And I asked him to, however, wear the watch, and said it's on my risk, but please do it. There's nothing better than to expose a watch to such a stressful moment. And finally, he agreed, and he is wearing it. And I'm happy that we have still, when he comes back on Monday, the watch is on precise time indication. There's no failure. There's no perturbation. I don't know how to pronounce it in English. And this is where the whole team really is every day so proud of what they can work on, because we know it's really something good, reliable, it's stable. You can make sports, you can go to the theater, always you are dressed in the best way you can imagine.
Know a guy who's very good in damage control. He would like to apply with your company, but he doesn't know anything about watchmaking, but he would love to test drive your watches. Is there any way that I can have a good word for him?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm talking about you.
Yeah, I know. I realized.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
So
Every stress test is welcome.
very, very good. So yeah, I remember when we had that interview at AHCI, when you dropped your beautiful central impulse chronometer several times on the table, and I'm pretty sure we were not the only ones that got that presentation. So the watch is still running well, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that is something I'm hearing when we're talking about detent escapements, and people don't realize detent escapement is a classical chronometer escapement. Those were not designed for shocks or
No,
for downhill racing or anything.
not,
They were
not
cardonically in a box, so they had to be horizontally all the time, and they tried to prevent shocks on those systems. They were precise, but they were very fragile. And to convert now this entire thing, make it double, make it more complex, and putting in a wristwatch is an achievement which was probably unimaginable for the old Breguet.
Mhm. No, that's why my wife ever said that she is happy that we had been able to present the first real marine chronometer for a wrist.
Yeah,
It's true. The marine chronometers, they had been the coronation of precise watchmaking. We have to say clockmaking, but yeah. And as you said, they had been always cardanic adjusted, and they are also the reason to introduce an indication of power reserve, because not only that they had to be horizontal and placed safe to be far away from any kind of shock, also to get it started was always a problem. If you made it a little bit too strong, you could damage the whole escapement, and therefore they invented the power reserve indication, so that the navigation officer who had to take care of the sea chronometers always could see that it's the moment now to wind up the watch to avoid that it will run out of energy and stop.
yeah, I think that is a very important point, because we see a power reserve indicator more as a feature or nice to have, but they are rooted in a very existential kind of way, because you're saying that very nicely on several interviews. You had those sailors were not able to restart a marine chronometer, and so that is something that you try to avoid by using that power reserve. So Kesselowitz is asking a question, Mr. Lederer, as a German watchmaker, do you use the two-fold assembly similar to Lange? All mechanical parts are adjusted, then everything taken apart, cleaned, decorated, and polished.
Mhm. Yes.
You do?
Yes.
I can't believe it.
Yes.
Mr. Lederer, Bernhard, I've been talking a lot about independent watchmakers, and one sign of how much passion and dedication is going into the watches is comparing the watchmaker hours that are averagely put in a watch to produce. Do you have a number how many watchmaker hours are connected to each watch that you're selling?
We, of course, we have to calculate. We have to know how many hours a total went in, but to separate it, this we are not able, and I don't see the sense to go that deep. I will explain you what I mean by that. When a watchmaker is now assembling a watch, and by assembling, he can see that there is a slight minim imperfection, for example, on the head of a screw. He will take that screw and he will re-polish the head of the screw until it is that what we call the black polishing, this mirror polished. where you can turn it and look from all points and you see no scratch at all. So the assembling of a watch is interrupted by something what belongs finally into the department of decoration. And this fine adjusting, this searching for reliability and for long-lasting quality in the watch, that is something what really takes hours and hours. You don't see it, but you know, I had one situation. I was on an exposition, and someone approached me and said, "Hello, Mr. Lederer. I'm so happy meeting you finally in person, and I want to thank you for what you do." And I said, "Oh, that's nice. So, yeah, because what you do is so special." And I said, what's so special?" And he said, "No, yeah, a watch of yours, when I buy it, I know for sure it's working." So I was a bit laughing about it because I think normally every watch should work. No, I was quite astonished for that statement. But what I want to say is, at the same moment, a second person being on that exposition obviously had listened to what that watch collector told, and he said, "Yes, and I can confirm that." And he pulled up his shirt and showed a watch what I made more than 20 years ago. And he said, "I'm wearing that watch every day. It was not serviced since, and it's still running perfect." And these are the moments I think they are very precious. I cannot say our watches are tested for 50 years. I would not be alive anymore. But to have a moment when someone approaches you and tells that he's wearing a watch that I made more than 20 years and still is happy with it, that is something very, very extraordinary and special.
That says a lot. OC, you're very silent. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm enjoying this, and it's been fun listening to this. Keep going.
Okay, so Kesslerowitz is asking, how much does it cost to service a Lederer? How often should it be done? Does it have to go back to Lederer workshop? What's the turnaround time?
Anna, we suggest to give a watch back to service all 5 years. That is, I think you can have the watch also 10, 15, 20 years, but we are no magicians. We are simple watchmakers. We also can make somewhere a little detail what is maybe not 100% perfect. So if we have a watch back every 5 years, we take it apart, we observe every detail, and if there is something to retouch, we will do so. And by this, at least, we can guarantee that also the smallest mistake what might have been in of one of our watches can be discovered, can be detected, and can be healed. And therefore, we would like to have them back. And the cost for a service, it's funny that this question is now coming up because the main costs are normally the retouch of the cases. To disassemble the movement, to clean everything, if needed, to retouch a little detail and to reassemble. This is a certain amount that are a few days of work. But to retouch a case of a watch that had been worn intensively, that can be at the end the higher part in the repair bill than the service of the watch itself.
Personally, whenever I give a watch to service, I tell them, don't touch the case, don't touch it.
Their customers, they are like you. But there are customers, they expect that the watch, when it comes back, looks as new.
What is your opinion? What is your opinion? What would you do if you would be the owner?
I would not polish the case because it became part of my life. If you look to a picture of mine 40 years ago, I looked a little bit with less wrinkles, but I'm happy that I have them because they are a sign of how often I have been laughing, how often I have been smiling, and therefore I don't want to give them away. And the
I
same
simply do,
is with
yeah.
all the scratches on the case of a wristwatch that had been worn, because if you are careful with your watch, there are only a few, and if there is one, I guess you remember when it happened, from where it came, and let's hope that these are good memories.
I have a hard time imagining that you're taking off material from the beautiful shaped case, even though you can recreate those edges and corners and everything. I still have the feeling that there is something missing because you take away material, and that is something that I have a problem to compute with.
Mm. Yeah, but it's true. It is minim, but
Yeah.
yes, it is.
So, but now comes the most important question, and I think everybody in the audience was waiting for that moment. And I told you in advance that I'm going to ask that question. So we're doing here this show for years now about independence, and there is not a single show that I'm not being asked that question. Okay, I'm dropping 100K now for a beautiful Bernhard Lederer watch. How do I know that when I pass it down to my son, it can be serviced? I'm going to find somebody who is servicing. I'm going to find those spare parts. I won't have that problem with the Rolex, but I'm not sure with independence. What is your reply to that?
I think this question is very clear where it comes from, and yes, it's a serious question to be answered. But I think today you must not be afraid, as you should have been when I started to learn watchmaking, because at that time the watchmaking profession really was dead. You went to a jeweler, to a retailer, and what they told you is, oh, forget it, it's not worth to put money in. You can have a quartz watch what's even much more accurate, and that as an amount inferior of what only the repair would cost. Today, independent watchmaking became very fashion, and not only does many people, young people, picked up interest in watchmaking and want to learn and learned already that profession. So when I learned it, we had been in whole Germany had been 12 people learning watchmaking, and 11 of them because their parents had a retail store, and me. And today it's different. Today there are a lot of watchmakers that learn the profession, and for the sake of all those, I have to say, whatever once human being had been able to manufacture, to produce, in the future there will be people who will be able to reproduce what had been done. And so you must not be afraid. The only point is where to find, how to find someone, and at which price he will be able to reproduce whenever a piece will be really broken. The other question is to service a watch, and therefore you need simply a good instruction for the reassembling. How to disassemble a watch, every watchmaker knows, but how to reassemble it, that is from time to time maybe a headache for the one or the other watchmaker who thought, I'm a watchmaker, I will be able to do so. But therefore, just have a look, pay attention that there is a good documentation from those watches. And if it's a unique piece where it's really a movement made only once, this one who made it, he will have a documentary, because he constructed it, he measured, he built it, ask then for this documentary, and then you have the tool what you need to reproduce in case something really, really heavy is happening to your watch. But how serious this question is, I would like to tell you a little funny story. Because not everybody has a good documentary. And I don't know if you are aware that in 2015, 2016, we had the pleasure to develop a wristwatch for the German Navy diver, how you call it, to the diver squad. Those divers who have to disarm sea mines. And they had been looking for a wristwatch completely resistant to each and every magnetic fields. And not only this, but not becoming a magnet themselves. And we developed that. We had been invited to test it. It had been tested up to 100,000 Gauss. It showed not any derogation. It was influenced completely by nothing. And having done that, I said, at the end, it's a little bit funny and strange that the German Navy searched again, because every watch collector at least should know that IWC in the 70s, they made for the German Navy a diver's watch for the same
The
depart.
Porsche.
And
Porsche, yeah.
for me, it was funny, the question why IWC did not take the job once again.
Mm.
And so I contacted them, and after a while, I got the answer, what is perplexing, but also quite funny. And the reason is very simple. They had no documentation. And that sounds weird, but it is like that. At that time, the way they made it, the materials they used to make it, had been declared as military secret. So all documents about went to the army and are somewhere stocked, unknown where, in the archives of the German Navy.
Okay.
IWC has no documents. They don't know what they did. So
Could
if you
it be
have a diver's watch of them and you need the servicing, be happy. They still have a lot of spare parts, and that is when it goes to serial production, the main point. When you want to have watches from independent, ask them how many spare parts they ensure you to produce additional to the quantity of watches that they release as assembled watches.
Is there a ballpark how you handle it? So for each produced watch, which are the critical spare parts, and what is the quantity that you're preparing for the future?
Alors, what we are doing is we test very, very strict and intensive before we bring a watch to the market. As I told you, the CIC, the first version, where we did not find yet the solution how to avoid the difficulty on low amplitudes, we finished to make that in 2016. But we released the first watches only in 22. So all those years we used to find the best way, the perfect solution to ensure that these watches will not need servicing because of a malfunction. And all critical components we produce at least 20% more. But what is more important, everything is in all details documented. So whenever we are running out of stock of spare parts, what I don't think ever will happen, but in case there is no problem to reproduce each and every component.
So you keep that documentation in the company, and you're sure that in the future, with that kind of documentation, it will be possible to reproduce the spare parts if they are needed, and if you ever should run out of spare parts.
Yes, because we produce them in very, very small series. We are limited by quantities what we can assemble and decorate on this high level what we are working, but they are produced in very tight tolerances. So every piece can be interchanged from one watch to the other, as they are all exactly the same. And that is, for me, a very important point. There are some independent watchmakers. They use even old movements, old stuff, what they then transform into very nice watches. But of course, they do not have spare parts in case something is breaking down. And I think there is a very big difference what you should be careful with. But these are very, very few only. And most, I would like to say something like 90% of all the independent, they produce the components according to their design, produce it themselves or let it produce, but everywhere you will find the documentary.
So I have a very interesting question from my friend Thomas Burnett, who can't participate tonight. Which is, I find it interesting because you told us about the LEDERER process of minimizing weight, so high tech in traditional watchmaking. And Thomas Burnett was asking in advance, Bernhard, how important do you think is it that what modern watchmakers stick to traditional practices and do not include silicon or plastics in the building of their movements? Are you romantic about this topic? Do you believe that watchmaking should have a few rules that shouldn't be broken?
Yes. Very clear, yes. I don't know if I'm romantic, but I stick to the tradition, yes, because I think it's important that you give a watchmaker the chance to repair a watch. And if you have silicon components, a watchmaker cannot repair them. You may say now that the Liga produced components a watchmaker cannot repair. No, he can repair a Liga component. He can let it be reproduced, what is not the case with silicon components. Silicon components to reproduce by today's technology, maybe that will change somewhere in the future, but by today's technology, you always have to make a complete waiver. And a waiver is in the cost around from 20,000 Swiss francs on upwards. So imagine you have one escape wheel what was made from silicon, but to make a waiver,
you have to produce thousands.
Just produce thousands of them to have that one made, because you have to make a complete waiver. That is the difficulty, and therefore I'm very clear. I'm using not only traditional materials, from time to time modern materials. There are very sensible developments and sensible materials what came to the market. But all those materials you can work on traditional machines. You can saw, you can file, you can sand them, you can grind them, you can polish them, you can bench them, and you can break them.
Yeah, please allow me one remark, and I know that it's a very difficult field. So that is the old version of the escapement wheel,
Yes.
and that is not Liga manufactured. And I personally prefer this, even though when it's heavier and it's difficult to polish. In my opinion, and that is just my opinion, and I'm totally irrelevant for you. I think what I see here is a classical movement with brigade tradition, and I think those Liga escapement wheels are a little bit over the top. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and maybe there is this difference. I use that saying, what I feel, what is the meaning of tradition? Because somehow the tradition means really to continue to keep the fire and not to sit there and conserve the ashes. And that means for me, in that case, to use a modern technology to bring forward what is the goal of all the great watchmakers, to make more accurate and more stable the timekeeping. And if there the Liga wheel can give us a helping hand, I feel that it's really welcome. And I'm even, and there I tell you a little detail about watch to come. There will be, and we are in the development of a watch where we will use components made by artificial made diamonds. That sounds a little bit contradictory to what I said before, but today it is relative easy and you can buy that nearly everywhere, are artificial made diamond layers, and
Lab-grown, yeah.
those you can machine again, also like you can machine the rubies, what you use in the watches. So it's a component, a material, what is common in watchmaking. You had already in the past diamond stones in the escapements, and for me, a diamond is difficult to work with, but it's very traditional, and Liga is even more easy to work with, even if we are not equipped with the technology. We buy those components, but every watchmaker can go there and can buy just a few of those wheels. He must not go and buy a whole waver like on silicon wavers.
I understand. We are now 1 hour 47 minutes. I'm not sure if your voice and your attention is still allowing. I have still a lot of questions. Can
Go
we?
ahead. I will ask for something to drink and then we continue.
Do you need a drink break right now, or?
No, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
okay. So in my research, I've learned that you employ around 40 people in your companies.
No.
No?
We are now 25.
25. Okay.
Yes,
Can you
yes. And
tell?
I want to stay with that number. Please don't
Okay.
blow it.
Oh, sorry. So then the information that Google is wrong. I blame Google. So you're developing also for the Swiss industry still, or are you now solely focused on your own watches?
I'm since more than 1 year, I'm officially retired.
Okay.
And I have now the pleasure that the collection, the tribute to the masters, that will bring a lot of escapements to the market, that has so nice and big return from the watch collectors. Therefore, I nearly 100% focus on these developments. They are my passion. They are my pleasure. And the watch industry has to search now for someone else who will make them the perpetual calendars number 59 and the minute repeater number 172. And I prefer to stay with those themes and with those challenges that the watch industry is not that much interested, but obviously the watch collectors.
So MHM basically has stopped now working, and your Bernhard Lederer watches now?
No, MHM did not stop, but MHM reduced extremely or sized down the folder of customers.
Okay.
And but you may know that one, it's also an independent brand. We made a development that is for Čapek, and there we made his watch with the two escapements that are linked by a differential. And there are 1-2 customers more, but they have this famous paragraph that I may not talk about what we do for them. But beside of this, and I think I will not accept new requests.
Okay. So that those tributes to the masters, you hinted that you're working on further improvements in the escapement aspect of watchmaking. So there will be more projects to come that are different to CIC. Can we hope, as people who are in the Rolex price range, can we hope that there will be one of your projects below 100K, or will it be even more expensive what you have in the pipeline?
First of all, I have to excuse that I don't know what's the Rolex price range. I never went to any store to look to price tags. But yes, the next watch what we are going, the next escapement, what we are going to present, the chapter 2. So chapter 2 is just to not give a name until today. That will be clearly below 100,000. But it will nevertheless be a very nice, interesting escapement. And this is again an escapement based on an historic development. The chapter 3, if we don't change in between, will then be an escapement that is a development on a also traditional field, but a completely new development, an idea that nobody else had before.
Wow. And there will be in total 6 or 7?
Of
You never stop.
No, I don't know how many years God will give me to continue. I hope a lot, and then the number will be where it will be. There, I have sketched 6 escapements that I would like to do. I do it the most quick way, but also the most quiet and serious way. I will not rush. I will bring them to the market when they are ready for the market, when I can put my signature on those developments, to continue the statements what we heard, where people said that they can confirm these watches, they keep what they promise, they are reliable.
There is one question by Whole Milk. Will there be a resonance?
Very diplomatic answer, no comment.
Okay. MCM is nosy and asks, let us know how many watches your workshop is producing per year currently.
We produce 2-digit numbers of watches a year.
So below 100.
Yes.
Okay.
Clear. Not only below, so it's not 99, it's clear below. Yeah. It's really because we focus on this level where we place our profession. All people working in our company, they have a very, very huge respect towards watchmaking and all the detailed métiers that are part of the whole story. And this is for me a big pleasure that we had been able to gather those people. And it's already the respect towards them that we really go to the last details, and we do every work very, very, very respectful. Sorry that I'm not native language English, but I
No
think
problem.
I'm defending quite well.
I suffer the same. No, I forgot a question. 1 second. Yeah, here AD Never Calling says we have a watchmaker school in Dallas. Tuition is covered by the manufacturers, who then employ you for a 2-year payback. So apparently that is a model. So you have to pay to go to a watchmaker school, and then you're signing a contract with the manufacturer. So watchmakers are high in demand at the moment, and I think that is a good thing to know. How do you know anything about Swiss watchmaking and or German watchmaking schools? Are the numbers of watchmakers increasing, or are they decreasing because of retirement? Because many who learned that profession in the last 3 decades probably are close to retirement. And not everybody has an own watchmaking company, just like you have.
I don't have those numbers, no, but I can see when we expose, for example, in Iceberg with all the other members of the AHCI, there are many, many watchmaking schools coming to Geneva, visiting the Watch and Wonders exhibition, and later on then also the exhibition in the Iceberg. And therefore I can see that these are from many European countries a big, big quantity of people coming and being actually in the apprenticeship of becoming watchmakers. And we see it also, all the demands what we receive from people who finished school, who would like to work with us. This is increasing number, and we are happy that from time to time we can employ. And it's really pleasure to see with which enthusiasm those young watchmakers are joining a little bit elder watchmakers, and have pleasure to continue learning and entering deep into that beautiful profession.
So you're hiring young watchmakers for your
Yes.
own company. Can you tell us about a moment? I'm pretty sure you have those moments when you see a certain person who applies with you, and I hope that there is an important moment where it clicks, and you say, that's the right person. I want this person working for me. Do you have any crazy stories that you remember where it clicked and you said, nah, I have to get this guy or this woman?
No, yeah, there are a few of them, and it happens very natural, and always the right people meet at the right moment. And so it happened, I guess it was 2 years or 3 years ago, at the Iceberg during that exposition at Watch and Wonders. A group of watchmaking students had been visiting us there, and there was one Italian. He was standing really for hours in front of the vitrina, and placed very intelligent questions, and he was simply curious. And as me, he asked always this why, and why.
He was an Italian Bernhard Lederer.
Italian Bernhard. But at the end, he a little bit shy, he asked if there might be maybe once the possibility to make just 1 month and just to be part of us, and if he could. And I said, listen, just finish your school. That will still take quite a while. And if then still you are interested, just write an email or make a phone call or just address yourself, and then we will see what is possible. Yeah, and the months went by, and of course I did not remember that moment and that situation anymore until it was ringing on the front door. And I went there and opened the door, and the Italian was standing there holding a piece of paper in his hand and said, Mr. Lederer, look, here is my certificate. Now I'm a watchmaker. When can I start?
Wow.
And that was so nice that I said, I told him, no, yeah, come tomorrow at 8 o'clock and then let's see.
Is he still with you?
Yes, of course.
Fantastic. I've been visiting Geneva 2 years ago when the GPHG awards were given, and I was astounded about the young people who learned watchmaking from Japan, from South America. Everybody was in Geneva. Most of them were in the Musée Rat. We met them, we were talking with them, and I was just blown away by the attention that this event has to people who are learning watchmaking and who are just traveling then to Europe just to see those crazy watches. And that just shows that the profession is not dead, and that there are people learning that profession that are really dedicated and have a bright future.
Yes. Yes, and that is, I come back to your question, what about in 30 years, in 50 years, if a watch needs to be serviced? I think with all those young people learning watchmaking, and now they have a solid base where they can learn it, nobody must be afraid that the watch will not be possible to service anymore.
Can we expect another variant of the CIC, or is that what you're offering at the moment? Is that it? You don't want to reply to that question. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, already by not replying, there is a very
okay.
yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. There will be very interesting things coming. Yeah.
So when do you think chapter 2 will be ready?
As soon as we are sure that it will last for centuries. No, for decades should be enough. No, as soon we are now testing, and we make very, very strict and intensive testings. And if they are successful, and if we cannot find any failure function, then will be the moment that it comes to the market. I'm happy that we are not depending on dates like Watch and Wonders or other shows. We with our small quantity of watches, with the fact that we make so special things, we are in the happy situation that we can make press communication, that we can release the information, and whatever date that will be, it will be. And we will not sell more or less watches if we announce this 1 month before Watch and Wonders or 9 months after. That will make no difference.
I didn't expect anything else from you as a reply, and that is very admirable. Now I had, you said in an interview that you have great respect. So you've been asked what other companies do you have great respect for, and OC was asking that question, and your reply was Grand Seiko. Can you explain us a little bit why that is?
Just to look to the watches and read about them, and you have the answer. they are very much interested in the same thing like I am. They really look for serious new ideas. They make really new development. There had been the comment during our talk from someone who said that in the watch industry, in the big industry, those big brands, you find new design in dials, you find the new colors here and there. Of course, you find also technique developments, but really ground going and groundbreaking researchers are more or less very rare to find. And Seiko, they are very active and do it very serious. Those new developments also on the escapements to find ways to get it the regularity like we do it with our double remontoire, and they are very successful in what they are doing, and they make super steps, and this is why I respect them.
Are you talking about the new dual impulse escapement that they introduced in the high beat line, or is that more a general?
Also, but more in general, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Of course, this is a result what is very, very to be respected.
Yeah. What's your thought about spring drive? Not a fan?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I personally, I'm a big fan of Spring Drive, but I have I know that that it's an electronic regulation, so it's a difficult thing. But again, I respect Seiko for never giving up. They've been working on that for 25 years, I think.
And this is what I mean.
Yeah.
The development there, the Spring Drive,
Yeah.
it is very, very also intelligent, very much to be respected. But it is not what I feel as the pure watchmaking.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I'm too much a purist. Maybe I'm too traditional. Okay.
So Holmberg is asking, what are Mr. Lederer's thoughts on Vincent Calabrese's movement design without a hairspring?
In 1500 somewhere, you had watches without hairspring, with something like a ressort, like a spring, as he has. At that time, it had been called the hair of a pig. He now made it from metal. For me, it's a pullback, a step back, a few centuries. The technically very easy to explain. A hairspring is very, very long, very well machined and tightened steel component, treated in very special, very high sophisticated ways. So it is stable in certain limits, of course, on temperature changes and so on and so forth. If you want to make that on a short spring, as Vincent Calabrese did it, you are faced to each and every small variation in the elasticity of those short springs. They never ever will be regular. They never ever will be reliably the same. So you are faced to a change of amplitude all the time. And in addition, you have the banking of the pinion, what he has below his balance wheel, what is in contact with this ratchet wheel. Yeah, I think ratchet wheel is the right word. So it's a development what I would collect, because I collect ideas and constructions that never worked or never really worked.
And you collect that yourself, or are you only collecting those plans? Are you really collecting those watches then, or the watches? Okay. To use your high-speed camera then on them?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no. There is no need, because my pleasure is to detect, just to go a little bit more complete. It was just a situation that there was a couple coming into my workshop many years ago, and they brought in, it was a little table clock, and they asked me to repair it. I looked at it, and I saw there cannot be a big thing, and I told them, okay, come in 3 weeks or 2 or something like that, and you can pick your watch and it will work, and no problem. And I opened it, I cleaned it, and as I thought, there was nearly no sign of wear. So I repolished just a little detail and oiled it and assembled, and immediately it started ticking. But it only was working for 1 hour, and then it stopped. And I looked at it, and I manipulated it a little bit, and started to work again for 1 hour. And again, it needed my manipulation to work again for 1 hour. So what I found out there, that watch or clock never really worked. And when I later on discussed with the owners, they told me that a grandfather of them had been the watchmaker who built that clock. Before I knew that, however, I gave promise, come in 2 or 3 weeks and you will have your clock back again and it will work. So I was in the obligation of what I promised, and I studied, and I found at the end, I found the reason why it never worked. And it was one of those typical mistakes when you are too close to work, you lose the overview, and you have to have the capacity to step back. And when you step back and you say, okay, let's calm down, let's really observe, let's analyze what's going on, then you can detect the mistake, what had been overseen at the time the watch had been created. And it started with this one clock, of course, that I had to give back because it was not mine. But it sensibilized a little bit, obviously, my eyes, and step by step I discovered the first and the second and the third one, and then I started to amuse myself by going to auctions, to go to flea markets, to look around for watches that never worked.
So what was can you explain what the technical problem was about that 1 hour clock?
Yes, it had a remontoire, a 1 hour remontoire, and it was made with a chain. So there was one weight going down, and it had to be lifted up again. But when the weight was at the end of the way down, the weight of the chain was added. And then the power of the clock was not sufficient enough to lift up the weight, the driving weight, plus the weight of the chain. So what I had to do was very simple. I had to exchange the chain against a very fine rope. Waiting.
Just to put down the weight then.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you solve that problem with that big second or hour hand in Rio? Did you make a hidden counterweight underneath the dial, or how did you solve that?
Yes, of course. That was the easy number to make a hidden counterweight. But the real problem was to develop a mechanism. Just imagine you have nearly 4 meters, 3.5 meters long second hand. That must be somehow a solid piece.
Yeah.
And it must be lightweight. So I developed again something a little bit like the Eiffel Tower construction. So it was a Gerippe,
A
skeleton,
skeleton.
covered with thin layers of aluminium metal sheets. But to every wind, to every storm, this is a surface where a storm will attack.
It's like a sail.
Somehow, yeah.
Yeah.
And the problem was to develop a mechanism that will hinder the storm to turn the second hand backwards, or to block it at all to be turned. And that was the main issue. And there I developed a system where the power of the machine, that is of course an electromotor with a gearing who is turning then the second hand, but a system that hinders outside energy to turn the mechanism counterclockwise.
Very interesting. Mr. Bernhard, we are now over 2 hours, and I think
If there still is audience interested,
yeah.
I
We have
no
still
problem.
we have still 16 people who are watching it. At the moment, I'm running a little bit out of gas. I would love to at one day. I would love to talk about that collection of things that never worked and your take on. I think you could write a book about those probably if you had the time.
Just that's my comment. I prefer to make another escapement and bring it to the market instead of writing a book. This,
Okay.
when I pass away, people can write the book about what I made.
Yeah,
I
is it
want to
because
use the time to continue to make things that are very special.
yeah, I think for me writing a book would be a nightmare. I'm not good with words, and I think you'd rather work on your workbench and find technical solution and explore them. So yeah, I think I'm personally done at the moment. Yeah.
I remember one question,
Yeah.
what you wanted
Oh,
to
yeah.
ask me.
Mhm.
That was if I could give an advice, what kind of watches or what
Oh, yeah.
brand to buy.
Yeah.
And that is a question what I really cannot answer. And I want to point it out that I cannot answer it, but however, I can, I guess, give an advice. I cannot tell you buy this or that because it is too personal. And therefore, my advice goes very clear into this only direction. When you are interested in watches and if you feel that you would like to build up a collection of watches, never ever listen to a trend or never follow a trend. Only follow your heart. If you follow a trend and this trend will change, and that is for sure a trend will change, then you are surrounded by watches that at the end you never really wanted to have. Other wanted them and built it a trend. You will be unhappy, you will have difficulty to sell them. So if you really have a dream and want to fulfill the dream, go ahead and don't go another way. Follow your heart and you will be happy.
Let me add, if you're buying a watch that followed the trend and you said at a certain point of time others wanted that watch, well, when the trend changes, nobody else wants that watch and you don't even want it. So what's the point of buying then such a watch? And yeah, I think that that's a very good advice. Advice that I'm giving is just listen and find out what you like, what resonates with you, what you don't like, what you like, and you will find your way. And I think for us all, it's also a question of trial and error. We, like you never give up, but I'm pretty sure your personal life is not full of successes. You tried several allies, probably realized this doesn't work, so let's move to a different direction, and that's the same with watch collection, probably.
Yes, yes. And again, the point, when you made the collection and the theme may change after a while, then it's still a collection what you build it up with your heart. So there will be people around that will also fall in love with those watches, so it will be possible to sell. But watches that had been yeah brought to a hype, that had been made desirable, and you know about what I talk, there are trends to build up desired brands, and this building up is very much manipulated from time to time. That is gambling, that is risky, and that has nothing to do with love for watches. Love always has something to do with your heart.
Are you facing a certain clientele that is mostly interested in the value retention of your watches, speculating that your watches will be the next hot thing in the future? Do you have an allocation process, or how do you handle those
No,
orders?
no. I would have no idea how to find out if someone is buying because he is sure they will rise in value. I'm sure they will, yes, but that will simply be nice for everyone that if he buys a watch that I produce. But not I'm not the person to say you may not have a watch because I think you only make it you buy it for speculation. Just imagine he wants to make a speculation, buys my watch, but who tells that he is not falling in love with the watch and will never sell it? Nobody knows. And if I tell him at the beginning, no, you buy it for speculation, I would hinder him to fall in love with something beautiful. I have no right to do that.
Yeah, true. True. So, what is the current situation? I think when we made the initial interview, you said that the 39 millimeter model will be available in a couple of months, and they are still available. How is the supply situation at the moment compared to the orders for you?
Hello. The 44 millimeter watches, they are all delivered. From our point of view, they are sold out. As I told you, also the inverter was immediately sold out. Now we have two where those who ordered it ask to step back, what we accepted. And the 39 millimeters, we are now starting in, I guess, 6 to 8 weeks. We still start to deliver the first pieces.
Okay. Are you thinking about making a clock again?
My wife wants me to do, but I have the very, very strong feeling that I don't have the time to do so.
The clock behind you, is that made by you, or is that
No, that's a masterpiece. That's my second passion. Unique pieces, masterpieces. As you may know, in Germany, for many years, for centuries, when you wanted to become not only watchmaker but a master watchmaker, allowing you to have your own shop, you had to prove your mastery by making a masterpiece. And the clock behind me is a masterpiece of a clockmaker from north of Germany. And it is well documented. There is a letter with the clock. When I bought it, I was happy that it's so well documented, and so I know who made it, when he made it, who owned it when he passed away, and the whole life of the clock is well known. And I'm happy that it's now here in my little room where I'm working on watch designs.
So he had his masterpiece for his entire life, and then it was sold when he passed away.
Yes, yeah.
Because
it
it must be.
It was not sold; it was inherited,
Yeah. Mhm.
and the person inherited the watch, then handed. Yeah, it was a daughter. When she married, it became automatically ownership of the family she married in, and this family then, when this daughter of the watchmaker passed away, they sold the watch because they had no direct connection, and obviously did not see a sense to keep.
Yeah, Holmix has a beautiful wood on the clock, and I would agree on that.
Mhm. It's a 1 month duration,
1
and
month. Okay.
has
Monatsläufer.
ein Monatsläufer, yes, and has a precision escapement, of course, and a very heavy pendulum, and is keeping time quite well. And I always place it a little bit wrong to have the children right in time going out for school. Voilà.
Are you repairing your own clocks? Do you have the time for that?
Yeah, this time I take. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Bernhard, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. I hope that it was not too painful for you
Not at all. Not at
with
all.
with our ridiculous questions. I think you made it well understandable where you're coming from, what your watches are. I think we didn't touch enough the technical aspects of your central impulse chronometer. If you feel that that has come short a little bit, I would like to give you the space to add what I forgot to ask or to inquire to.
I think not the technical details are important, but the result.
Yeah.
And the result is simply, as I already told, is that stable accuracy, that stability in its precision, and of course also the overall precision.
Yeah.
But to bring the marine chronometer to the wrist with all its advantages and having eliminated all the disadvantages. So
I mean,
it's a little bit like a piece of history. This type of watch, what saved thousands of lives of seafarers, and this symbol of navigation, of saving lives, this is now possible to wear on the wrist.
you haven't told us about the the sound of your escapement. You made a beautiful interview with Revolution where you said it's not TikTok.
I don't remember what I said.
You don't know? Well, you said the sound of my escapement is not TikTok, TikTok. The sound is talk, something like that, wasn't it?
No. Okay. A chronometer escapement. Maybe it was that what you remember. A chronometer escapement is unidirectional. So it makes not tick tack, it makes tick, tick, tick.
Yep.
And this is just when it's opening the golden spring, what allows the passing back of the balance.
Mm.
But voila, as we have a mirrored detent escapement and we don't need that gold spring, our watch makes a tick and tick and tick and tick, and not tick tock. The tick and tock is a symbol of the fact that on the Swiss lever you have different distances to the resting surface of the escape wheel. And therefore, you really have a difference in the noise if it's on the outgoing pallet or on the ingoing pallet.
Mm.
So there you have the tick-tock. But
And yours
as
is
we
tick,
have
tick.
a really, really identical situation on both sides, it's tick, 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 and not tick and tock. But what is funny is the noise every 5 seconds when one of the two remontoirs is releasing.
Yeah.
Because then you have an additional noise. What we even studied this, when we made the first, and it was funny, the first movements I told you, we made the sapphire crystals not from sapphire but from plexiglass, which simply made them that we have a dust protection for the movements to be able to start to test them like in real life.
Yeah.
And the noise of releasing the remontoire when you are in a plexiglass cover is reinforced and is much louder. It's like a loudspeaker,
Yeah.
this elastic surface of the plexiglass. So you could really listen very, very easy to the tick, tick, tick of the movement, and every 5 seconds, bang, tick,
Yeah.
tick, 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 bang, tick, 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 voila. And then we said, this is very clear. You can hear that this is something important. So all what is important, we have to take care. And we said to each other, okay, we have to find out if we can manipulate the phonetic signature of this releasing.
Mhm.
And we made a couple of different designs of this flywheel, what is releasing and blocking and releasing and blocking. And we simply tested them by listening to the movements. And as I said, it was easy to listen because we had the plexiglass cover. Today, with the sapphire crystal, it is a little bit more difficult to hear it. But we can tell you, of course, taste and taste can be different, but everybody in the company found that this form, what we now put in of the flywheel, that is the one that gives the most nice, the most elegant noise.
One of my questions that I have, do you have two remontoirs?
Yes.
And those are 10-second remontoirs? Because there are two and you're a perfectionist. One is releasing after 5 seconds while the other one is has run half down, and then the other one is releasing. You have to synchronize those in a kind of way. Are you also using a metronome, or how do you synchronize those?
They are synchronized by the escapement itself.
By the
But
escapement, okay.
yes, but what we have to we did not make our life that easy as it looks now, because you see the watch, it's finished, it's working, it's perfect, but the difficulties behind are really hidden. The difficulty, as you mentioned, to keep it synchronized. We have two independent movements in this watch. So if you have the watch running down and you don't wind it up anymore, those two movements will run out of power. So very clear, one will run out of power earlier than the other.
Yeah.
The escapement can continue to work only with one escape wheel. The other is simply not going into action anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What means two things. It means that the second hands will not be aligned, and the 5-second dispatch of the two remontoirs will not be equal anymore.
Yeah.
And therefore we had to reflect what to do, because the beauty of the 2-second hands being synchronized, it is incredible. And when you once saw it and then it disappears and they are not synchronized anymore, you have a little bit of sadness. And this is what we faced. Everything was done. We had been really happy. But then that we realized, and we worked and searched for a solution. And the question was how to synchronize two movements that are completely independent from each other. And the only logic solution is to stop the escapement the moment when there still is a little bit of energy in both of them.
Okay.
And therefore, hopefully, we have the chance that we have those remontoirs. And the remontoire, when once the power of the barrel is going down and not sufficient anymore to rearm the remontoire, this change, this we can detect. So the moment when the remontoire will run out of function, the watch will still run for a few hours, but the remontoire will not work anymore. And this we detect, and this triggers a small spring that will then jump out and will block the balance. And as soon as the balance is blocked, not one of the escape wheels can continue turning. So we keep the second hands synchronized, we keep the 5-second difference between the remontoires, and that is also important for the regularity. You know, when you have the two remontoires, if you wind them both at the same moment, you build up the force twice, and it's going down till 0, and then you double again the difference in the force. If you overlap them, the difference is once
Only half.
only one, and the other remontoire is on the half. So you split it, and you get a much more regular line of power what is arriving on the escapement than even if you have only one remontoire, because always you have the counterpart of the second one. So you equal more down even this very, very little variation in energy.
Fascinating. I could just imagine going those long lengths and then being faced with those challenges then at the end, and start all over again, or think, oh, we haven't thought about that now. How are we gonna solve that? But I see
I was wet. I was so shocked, sweated, and I said, no, may not be. Please, 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 let's find a solution.
Do you have sleepless nights over those issues?
Not sleepless nights, but moments when I wake up and say, now I know.
Okay, yeah. Well, that is better then.
But, once I was afraid that I will forget my genius idea I had tonight. So I took a piece of paper and quickly, half sleeping, I noted down my idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. You should have a tape recorder or anything nearby.
The problem was the next morning when I looked to the paper, I said, what the hell does those lines mean? I did not remember what I thought and noted down. But at the end, but it took me quite a while to or how to say, to decrypt my of the night.
Bernhard, I think it's time to close this. You have been very kind and very gracious with your time. Let me give you a long-standing invitation. Whenever you feel bored, whenever you would like to join the show, you're welcome to hop on. Shoot me a message or just appear in the comments.
I turn it around. Here, the king are those who listen. And if they would like to ask me some questions, if they would like me to be back again in the show, it's up to them to ask you. I'm available.
Well, I'm shocked to hear that, but I'm pretty sure there will be enough demand, and I'm pretty sure people will talk about your appearance here on the stream. Again, I've been talking to you previously, and people accuse us of being out of touch, loving those super expensive watches. The channel is called Elite Horology, which is a joke about people calling me an elitist, an horological elitist, and that is tongue in the cheek when we're talking about elite horology. And you're the best example that there is nothing arrogant, there is nothing elitist. This is pure passion, very German qualities in just analyzing things, learning things, educate your things, analyze things, and then get things done. I think that is very German. And I can't thank you enough for being my guest. And I wish you all the success. I'm pretty sure we will hear from people who want you back, and I'm looking forward to the next show. I hope that it was not the last time that you've been on YouTube. Maybe you're now browsing around, watching all the watch channels. You probably found a new hobby, and don't forget where you started. And you're always welcome to come back.
No, as I said, I'm open and I take the invitation to come back. But it's not me who will ask to give me that place to talk to people. I'm here for them. You are my customers. You are those who keep the profession running. We need you and your enthusiasm. We need your fascination for the profession we have the pleasure to work in. So whenever you want me to answer any kind of question you have, please address to Jonathan and he will arrange. And I'm happy if I can answer you whatever you would like to know.
There are already calls that you should replace OC as a regular panelist. There you go. Okay, with that, I'm closing this show. Please stay, and I would like to say goodbye to you. I'm going to do that in German. Bernhard, vielen Dank, dass Sie heute bei uns waren. Es war uns eine Riesenehre. Sie haben uns unglaublich viel gegeben. Ganz herzlichen Dank dafür. Wir wünschen Ihnen alles Gute und wir hoffen, dass wir uns bald wiedersehen.
Ich habe mich sehr gefreut. Ich habe mich sehr gefreut und es hat mir auch riesig Spaß gemacht. Und gerne, wie ich schon gesagt habe, gerne jederzeit wieder. Einen schönen Abend noch und ein schönes Wochenende. Have a good evening, a nice weekend. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for listening to that crazy watchmaker guy here, somewhere, nowhere in Switzerland. And whenever you would like to know more, typical question, very particular questions, address them to Jonathan. He will forward to me and I will be happy if I can answer you. Thank you, take care, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
And wear your watches. Bye-bye.